For the video editing lesson 1, we're going to create a basic composition in Adobe Premiere. So you're going to need to go on the module for this lesson and download the needed documents. You're going to download some videos, some still images, as well as some audio. We're then going to go into Premiere. Now, one of the things I want to warn you about Premiere is if you're using an older computer or you're using a laptop that maybe it doesn't have as much memory to it, Premiere can run really slow. It's a very large program. It can also freeze or kick you out of it. So if that's the case, we'll either have to set something up so you can go up and work in the computer lab up at school or figure something out. So just feel free to reach out to me if you start having any problems with it or if your computer just can't handle the program. Now, you will notice that I am on Premiere Pro 2022. If you're using an older version of this, that's fine. Some of the things might be slightly different, but it should be pretty close to the same, just like with all the other programs. Now, when you get into this, Adobe Premiere is for video editing. So you can use videos, you can use still images like JPEGs. You can also use audio in here to create your video files. So what we're going to do is we're going to just touch on a little bit of all of them. Now, the home screen that we're on right now is set up just like all the other home screens where you come in and it has a new project, open a current project, home, and then learn where you can find any of the tutorials that Adobe offers. We're going to create a new project. Now, for this, we're going to name it your last name _ lesson 1 again. We're going to leave all the default settings on here just because they are pretty standard for what we're going to be doing just at a basic level. And you can come here to location and browse and you can change where you want this to save to. And then hit the folder and hit OK. Okay, so this program, you can notice that there's basically going to be 6 main screens that we're going to be working on. So if you come up to Window, Workspace, you want to make sure you're on editing to begin with for us so that we're all on the same page, all on the same workspace. And under editing, if it's already selected, go to reset saved layout and it'll reset it for us. Okay, so under editing, it's just a really simple layout that we can use. So that's why I kind of choose this one. You can see that there's 5 main panels that we'll be working in. You have source up to the left, program to the right, project to the bottom left, your toolbar, and then the timeline. The easier way to kind of explain these to you is to, as we go, I'll just kind of talk about each of the panels and we'll kind of work our way through the project. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is you're going to, after you've downloaded the images or downloaded the files from the module, you're going to come into this project panel right here and you're going to right click where it says import to start media. And you're going to import. Now, the file that I gave you guys have these all right next to each other, but if you had them in another file, you're just going to press and hit Control and select them all. Now, remember with this program, it is like Illustrator and InDesign. All the files need to be in one area together. You need to keep the files together. If you move them, or if you were to create a Premiere file and send me just the Premiere file and you did not send me the files that go in it, I would not be able to see anything. It would give me that like 1950s screen that came on late at night that they show in movies that had all like the little stripes on it of the different colors and telling me that there was an error that it couldn't read the files. So you have to make sure everything's together. So what I did was I pressed Control and held it and I clicked only the files I need. You're going to need bird, flower, sunrise, trail, visionary, and waves, and then hit open. Now, the nice thing about this program is you can see what your files are that you've loaded, and you can even do little thumbnail watches. So you can hover over it. You can pull your cursor back and forth and you can see the video play itself. So you can really see it like in this waves one, the trail one, the bird one. Now, the sunrise and the flowers are still images, so those aren't going to work the same way. You can see this by either list or you can go over here and do the actual view. Okay, we're going to start off by making a composition or a sequence. And what we're going to do is we're just going to bring the files over one by one so that we can work on them individually. So I want to deselect everything except for my flowers. And I'm going to pull my flowers over and I'm going to drop them right here in the timeline. Okay, so right now it's just on the timeline, sitting here by itself. If you wanted some important things of the timeline, across the top is going to be the time. Here, this blue arrow right here is your playhead. And then down through here you have your video layers, your audio layers. And then on the bottom, this is where you can make it smaller or make it larger, zoom in and out so you can see what you need to see. Okay, so for the flowers layer, we want this to be 5 seconds long. With it being a still image, we can simply click on it and drag it, or either left to make it shorter or right to make it longer. It's really nice to be able to do with the still images. You don't have to edit them and crop them. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to move my playhead to 5 seconds. Now I can either drag it over like this, or with the playhead, the way the timestamp works, which is right here. If I double click on it, it's going to be hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Okay, and so in our frames right here, we can change the amount of frames. We can change the amount of seconds just by highlighting them. Or you can also highlight the whole thing. I want this to be I want to be at 5 seconds. So it would be 500. Okay, so it's seconds, frame, frame, and then hit enter, and it puts me at the 5 second. And you can see that I don't quite line up with it, so I can zoom in a little bit just so I see it a little bit better. And I did that down here on the bottom. Now, if I wanted to make this shorter, I could simply click on the end of this and I could drag it and make it shorter because it is a still image. But if I want to make it longer, I can simply click on the end of it and drag it. And once I hit that playhead, it kind of snaps it to it for me. So it's right there. Nice. You also can kind of select it and hover over it, and it'll give you the main information about that layer or about that clip. So if I hover over it, it gives me this little box. It tells me it's a duration of 5 seconds. So it shows me how long it is. And then I can zoom back out and I can make it a little bit smaller so I can continue working on the timeline. Now, one of the things with this program is the timeline is probably the most important one that you need to see a lot of times. So the smaller your screen, the harder it is. So sometimes you have to just like shrink stuff down, and you can simply do that by going in between the panels and shrinking them down. And I, a lot of times, shrink down my images so that I can see a little bit better. Okay, and then you can also shrink down the toolbar so it's just one streak. And there you go, and that makes it a little bit bigger. Now, if I move my playhead back to 0, or I hit the home key on my keyboard, it'll take me back to the home to 0 frames. And I can see my image up here. And if I press my space bar or I press the play button right here, I can play it, which right now it's a still image. It's not moving. You're going to see the same thing, and then it's going to go black. Okay, so if I pull it to the home again, this is where I'm going to actually watch the video that I'm making. The composition that I'm making will be in this frame right here. If I need to do any editing to it, it's going to pop up in my source. So let's edit a video so that we can see it in the source. The next thing I want you to move over is this trail video right here. So I'm going to move it over, and I'm just going to kind of, it doesn't matter if you butt it up against it or you leave a little room. As we crop it, it's going to, you're going to be able to see what it does anyway. So I moved it, I dumped it right here on my line, so they're back to back. I'm going to double click on the trail video. And you can see that it's almost 44 seconds long, and I don't need it that long. You can also see that it doesn't fill the frame. If we want it to fit the frame, we have to make it fit the frame. So I'm going to scroll my playhead over above it just so I can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to right click on this purple bar. And then you can go to scale to frame size or set to frame size. I'm going to scale it to the frame size. Okay, first. Now you can see that all I did was scale it up, but it didn't make it fit to the ends. Because we pulled the flower file in here first, it read that as our size. If we would have pulled this one in first, it would have read that as our image size, okay? So I'm going to Control Z and go back one. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to right click and I want to set it to frame size. Now, as I do that, it's going to actually set it up a little bit bigger, and I can click on it, double click on the actual image itself, and I can make it be bigger. Now it's going to be bigger than my frame, which is okay. There's nothing that I'm really cropping out of this. But if you're working on a project and you know that this was going to be what you wanted everything to set to, like you know that this trail video is exactly the video size and resolution and everything that you want, pull that into your timeline first and it'll set everything, and then you just make all the adjustments from everything else. Okay, for this it didn't really matter. That's why I went ahead and used the flowers first, and to show you that we can resize these. So twofold. Okay, but because we set it over here does not mean it's going to necessarily set over here, which is fine. Right now we're just using this to edit and to crop our video. So what we're going to do is we're going to crop this video down to 7 seconds. So I want you to kind of pull this trailhead and do a fast forward watch through this and kind of decide where you like it at. So I'm going to start at 16. So I can either pull this over. I know that at 16 seconds is exactly where I wanted my film to start. So I'm going to line this up to 16. You'll see it says 16 right here in the blue. If you can't get the trailhead to, or the playhead to exactly 16, you can double click on this and select it all and type in 1600. So 16 seconds, 0 frames. Hit enter. Why is it not doing it right? There we go. It was having some issues. Okay, so at 16, and this is where I want to mark it in. So this little bracket right here is mark in. And you'll see now that it cut off all the beginning of this, which is exactly what we wanted. And we will move this. Don't worry about it yet. There's an easier way of moving it. But now we need to add 7 seconds to it. So I need to go to 23. I get it set to 23. And it's not wanting to go perfectly. So I'm just going to do this and take it back. Hit enter. Now it's at 23, and I'm going to mark it out, and that's right here. Now, in this frame over here, it's going to be black because right now we can't see anything. In this frame, it's going to play at the 7 seconds. In this frame, for the source, it's going to show the whole video. That way, if you decide, you know what, I really wanted this to go from 16 to 24, you can pull this video, you can pull your playhead over to 24. You can remark it out and change it, or if you want it to go back to 23, I can do that. I can mark it out again, so you can change that mark. Or maybe you decide that none of this is where you wanted it to be and you wanted to actually start here and go to here. That's completely fine. Then you would just move it to where you want it, start it, move it to where you want it, end it, using these 2 brackets right here. Okay. And the same thing is if you're in here and you're watching it and it goes past those 7 seconds, it's going to go ahead and keep on playing. That does not mean that it's going to keep playing in your video. So now we have to move this to line up with here, and we can do it a couple different ways. You can pick it up and you can drag it over there and it'll snap into place, or you can simply right click in between them and ripple delete, and it's going to get rid of all that black. So then as you play it, it'll go straight from one into the other. Okay, next we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to do it with the bird. You're going to pull the bird over, put the bird here. Again, you can line it up perfectly, or you can just snap it right here. we're going to edit it, so there's a good chance we're going to take some off of it anyway. We're going to double click on the bird path or the bird layer, and now we can see our bird. Again, see, he's too small, so we can double click him and we can make him fit in the frame the way we want him to fit. Now, if you want to stretch it or pull it, you just have to slide it up. There we go. And now he's in place. And if it's too big that you can't see the whole thing on the screen, feel free. You can go down to like 75%. Oh, no, you can go down to like 25%. Now you can see how it's fitting in the frame. Okay. So now it's fit in the frame we want. Now we got to crop it. So again, just run your playhead across. Get it to where you want it. And I'm going to have it so that it's in the part where he's turning his head. Now, I'm going to start at about 7, I think. Yeah, I'm going to start at 7. You don't have to start at a perfect number. You can start at like 708 or whatever you want to start at. I have just a little OCD when it comes to that. I like it to start on perfect numbers when possible. So I'm going to start mine at 7. I'm going to mark it in. I want this to be 7 seconds long, so it needs to go to 14. And I'm going to mark it out. You mark yours wherever you want it to be marked. And then you're going to go down here, right click in between them, and ripple delete. And it'll put that right up against it. So now you're going to go straight from the trail to the bird. For the last video, we're going to do waves. So we're going to pull this one up and over, and it's extremely long. So first of all, let's make sure we size it. There we go. We got it sized the way we want. I'm going to double click on it. And then in this one, I'm going to go backwards because I really like the end of this video where there's a little heart right here. So I'm going to get the heart to where I want it. So I'm going to go to 35. Okay, so this is where I'm going to end. I'm going to pick my end first. And if you just saw, a little screen just popped up on my screen that said that it was automatically saving. So it has an auto save area in your file wherever you saved it to. So if you somehow get kicked out of it, you can usually go back to that and get back to that point. Okay, so we're at 35. I'm going to hit mark out, and I'm going to go backwards this time. So I know I need to go back 7 to 28. So I'm going to come back to 28 seconds, and I'm going to mark it in. Okay, I just did it backwards because I knew I wanted to get that little heart in there. But you can do it any way you want. If you knew that you wanted to get a certain wave, like that wave right there, you can come to the end of that wave and go backwards as well. Or you can, go forward and just see where it happens to end. So I got my 7 seconds there. Again, I bumped off a whole bunch of this front, so I can't even see it now. So I'm going to right click and ripple delete. So now my video goes straight from the bird into the waves. Okay. The last image I'm going to add in is my sunrise. I'm going to drag it down here. If I hover over it, it'll tell me, if I select it and hover over it, it's going to tell me I'm at 4:29, which is less than a frame away from being 5 seconds. So I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And I can come over it. Again, the image doesn't fit the way I want, so I'm going to size it. Now, I highly suggest if you know you're going to be working with stills, take the stills into Photoshop first and size them to whatever you plan on having your video be so that they're the right size. And that way they fit and you can make your video to be your start image. So we're going to take that just like that. I want the sunset to be right there. And there's my image. Okay. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to add the sound in. So you're going to add the wave the visionary wave sound down here to underneath it in the A1 area. Now if we play it, it's added the music in. Now I want to crop it all so that it all ends at the same spot. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and I'm going to take my playhead over and I'm going to line it right up with the end. Double click my music. See right here where my playhead is on my music, and I can end it there. So it crops it all to the same length. Okay. It goes all the way to the end. You can hit home, be back at the beginning. And this time we're going to add a title screen to it. So if we go to effects on our workspaces up here, we can find titles. And I believe you can also do it under editing if we do window and essential graphics right here. Okay, so you can do it under editing. You can do it under effects, but we're going to go under editing and we're going to do window and essential graphics, and it's going to open this up. And these are a whole bunch of title screens, ending credits, all of those things. So you're going to pick one that you like. And I found one earlier that I liked, which was right here. Okay, so I'm going to use bold title. And I'm just going to click on it and drag it over and drop it right here in my V2. Like in Photoshop and Illustrator, the layers that are on top of another layer, you can see through them. There they are, so I can see my title here. And if I double click on it, instead of giving me a way to clip it, it's going to show me what it actually says. And I can double click on your title here, and I'm going to type Hawaii. And for the episode, I'm going to change it to Wish You Were Here. Okay. And then if I change it, there it is. This one happens to have the effect that it flies out. Okay. And it happens to be that this one is just 5 seconds long, which is perfect. When my flowers come on, it zooms in. And as my flowers go away, it zooms back out. Again, if you wanted that to be on the entire time, you can drag it and put it on the entire time. Or you can just have it even shorter if you wanted it to be, just by clicking on the end of it and dragging it. Now, one of the other things I always that you can always do, especially if you're doing videos that you plan on putting on something like YouTube, you've noticed that they do the things at the end of videos now, like music by, or they credit people, or any of those type of things. You can put credits on your own videos, same type of way. So up here under Essential Classics, you go under Browse, and you can scroll down, and there's like these classic captions. They have all these different ones, captions and subtitles for online use. So you can do something like that. I want you just to pick one that has just one line. So I'm going to do this image, this film caption, and I'm going to drag it and put it right at the end of my video. And in this one, I just want you to put your name. Okay. So now, before we go any further, I want you to take a second and I want you to click on your timeline. I want you to go back to the beginning, and I want you to play your video all the way through and make sure you like the way it lines up. If not, make any changes to it. Then we're going to have to render it. So we have to turn it into a video. Like I said at the beginning, if you turn this into me now, just this file, I would not be able to see any of your images. It's going to give me something that looks sort of like this, with all these little lines in it. It's going to tell me there's a problem with it. It can't read it. So you have to make sure all the files are together So it's easier for you just to turn in a rendered file to me. So let's turn it into a video. So let's go up to File and Export and Media. Now, if it's grayed out for any reason, make sure that you've got it activated. So I'm actually on this one. You can do it here. You can usually click on the one that's over in here. That's your video. So you can, it's usually the last one on here. You can see that it's a little sequence right here. So it says it. Okay. So File, Export, Media. And once you click that, it's going to pop up your export settings. And we're going to change the format to H.264. Then under your presets, this is really nice. It does it all for you. You can come down here and you can scroll down, and we're going to do YouTube 720 HD. Output name, this is where you're going to choose what you're going to name it. So I'm going to name mine last name underscore lesson 1. I want it to be a video format, MP4. That's why I set it to the H.264. I'm going to pick what file I want it into. And I keep going into the wrong files. There we go. I want it to be saved into this file with my stuff. And then I'll hit save. Now it's telling me it's going to put it where it wants, where I told it to. Width and height is I'm going to leave, and I'm going to queue it. Then it's going to open Adobe Media Encoder. Now, if you do not have Adobe Media Encoder, please, if you cannot get Media Encoder to work for you because your computer is a little bit slower, you're having problems with it, please reach out to me, shoot me an email. You're probably going to have to manually open it, and you do that just by going into the Creative Cloud app, which should be on your desktop, selecting it there and doing it there. Media Encoder, though, gives you a lot more options than if we do it other ways, so this is one of the better ways of doing it. Here, you should be able to match it up, and it should still say H.264, YouTube 720. It should be saving it to the same place, and then you just hit this little green button right there. Now, you'll see it preparing it, and you'll see it rendering across here. Depending on the speed of your computer, depending on how big your file is, this can go really, really quick. Like this one seems to be going pretty quickly right now, or it can go pretty slow. This is also only a 30-second video compared to if you had like a 2-hour video. Okay, so all of those things come into play. You're just going to let it run through. And when it's done, I will show you the final piece that you'll turn in, the final file. So also, while you're doing this little output preview that was just down here, if you see those red lines or those colorful lines like I showed you earlier in there, that means that one of your files is not where you thought it was, or you moved it in the process. Make sure you just go back and fix that. Otherwise, it's going to look just like that when it renders. Then you can come into the file where you saved it at. And it is right, it's right here. And it is House lesson 1. And you have a video. Okay, so feel free to turn this into me. If you have any questions, shoot me an email and I will get back to you.